Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Chris here, aka the Maltese Falcon if you know me from the Andertons channel. Today I thought we'll take a look at breaking down Ableton for beginners. Let's go. Alright, I'll just get my headphones on. So to start us off, I'm going to mention Ableton is probably one of the more daunting looking doors when you're getting started on production. I can tell you this from personal experience. I was very intimidated when I first started using it. But here I am now. It's one of my most used softwares and I highly rate it for anything or to anyone. I would really recommend it. It's great software. Okay, so this is what I guess you could call the homepage of Ableton. It might look like this or like this. It's going to be one or the other. But basically, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to break down each kind of section of the window as you look at it to hopefully make some more sense to you. So starting off on this left side, right, you probably won't have any of these collections, but I'll get into that. You've got these categories. This is where you're going to find everything. Your plugins, your instruments, any effects, all of that stuff is going to live here. So if we look down, you can see you've got some sounds and some drums, which Ableton comes stock with. Instruments. So with the instruments and audio effects, I know Ableton comes in a variety of different suites. You got the lower and the higher, whatever. So that will also vary how many of these plugins you may have if you've got the free version or the full fat version, I guess. But either way, the locations for everything are going to be the same. So you can just keep up with that. So here you can see you've got your instruments, audio effects, your MIDI effects, your plugins will live here. If you've got any third-party plugins, clips and samples, again, just more sounds you can reach for. These will mainly be from your own libraries as well. And then lastly, at the bottom, you've got places. This is where your user library is. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here that you might want to keep note of. So that's where your presets and stuff save and all of that jazz. Your current project, if you're working on stuff, all your audio that you record will live in here, and it's good for project management. And then lastly, if you have any folders, I've got my samples folder and some projects which I like to keep at the bottom. You can just add the folder and it will, keep it internally so you can access it through there. So that's the left side. Now the bottom. So the most important feature of Ableton, right? The help box. Anything you move your mouse over, it will tell you exactly what it is and what it does. And I can't even describe to you how valuable this is. It's great. So you've got that. Then you've got in here your instrument or like plugin window area or your MIDI area, right? Now I'll explain why. So say we get an instrument, right? I've got a MIDI track here. So if you don't have a MIDI track and you want to create one, it's Command-Shift-T. I would recommend learning the shortcuts because that's the main reason Ableton can be such a quick tool is, the value of actually learning how to be quick with shortcuts. So let's add an instrument. I'm just going to add this wavetable synth. So I want to record some MIDI. I can go up here to my transport, press record. So as you can see, if I click on my MIDI here, this top region of the clip, that's the window at the bottom changes, and now this becomes my MIDI window. If I want to shift between that and the plugins, it's just Shift and Tab. You can see as well, if I press just Tab, that will flick between your arrangement and your session view. So maybe I'll leave out the session view for this video because it's quite, it's a whole separate thing in itself. This will be more just to get you started on Ableton. But yeah, if you want to see that, leave a comment below and I'll get to it. But yeah, moving on from there, as you can see, this is the synthesizer window where I can go and I can play with all of this stuff and create my synth patch basically. Or I can go into my audio effects, and Ableton has quite a few stock effects, as you can see, and a bunch of them have this colored dots next to it. And basically what that is these collections, right? So if I right click on one of these, you can see that I can add it to any of these collections I've created, as well as there's one that I haven't even added yet. So every time you add to these collections, it creates a folder, you can rename it, and it's really great for organizing. So I've got place for all of my favorite plugins, my favorite drums and instruments. These are effect tracks, and the gold is just things I like to reach for quickly, certain samples in particular. And then these are just my favorite, again, like quick access favorite drum sounds that I just reach for. So that's that. So say I want to grab an effect, I get the echo, chuck it in here. There you go, you got your plugin. Alright, now we've got the right side of the window, right? So we've got, this is where your tracks live, and you've also got your effects and your master. We'll get into that. But basically, at the top here, you've got your tracks. I'm gonna create an audio track. That's just Command T without Shift, push, create your audio track. As you can see, you've got your record arm, your solo. This is your on and off button for the track, your volume, and then here are your sends, right? To your A and your B auxiliaries, basically. When you create a new project in Ableton, it creates this default reverb and echo. So if you've got a sound, say we've got that synthesizer we used, I'm gonna turn off the delay for the meantime. And if I crank this is sending to A, and that's our reverb send, so you can hear without it. And the B send is the delay. So you've got quick access again to these two effects that you can use generally throughout your whole track, or if you want to just keep the effects on your individual tracks, you can do that. So if you want to record, say, a singer or I don't know, an instrument or something, and you need to select your audio track, that's just in here. You can see I've got my external input selected, but I can also resample from any track in Ableton. I can click on the channel. As you can see, I've got a couple labeled here. Oh wow, it's just started pouring. I mean, that's UK for you, so there's not much you can do about that. So yeah, excuse any of the background noise, but it is what it is. So say I want to record some audio, I'll click on the input here. I can click, for example, my rephase synth. And right now I'm monitoring through my interface. So if you can see that, I've got console here. I can mute that. And if I want to listen to the sound coming through Ableton, I can click this. Now I'm listening through Ableton. I tend to keep that off just because I listen through this console here. But, you know, depending how your interface is set up, will work differently, so, you know, use it accordingly. So at the bottom here, you've got your master. If you want to control your master volume of the whole project, that's here. And your cue volume, now this is like, say you want to audition something, say a preset or a sample. That's basically your overall volume for those. So your click. Can you believe this? I actually had to stop and reset the camera just because it was getting so bright that now England. So just to quickly run through the top section, we've got the BPM here, your tap tempo, right? You've got your click track here if you want to turn it on and off. You've got your count-in, so if you want a bar or half a bar or 2 bars count-in, you can set that there. Here you've got your follow mode if you want to follow your cursor. Next to it, it shows you where your locator is in the project, followed by your transport controls. Now here you've got a couple of interesting things. You've got your MIDI arrangement overdub, which is nice if you want to, say you've recorded a MIDI track and you want to add some things to the same track, you just turn that on and it won't overwrite it, it will add to it instead. Then you've got your automation arm. You activate that if you want to automate a parameter whilst you're playing through the track, say for a synthesizer or something. Your re-enable automation is basically if you've already automated something and you try to automate it again through the parameter, it will kind of lock your previous automation so you don't overwrite it, and then you can just click that to kind of turn it back on. Capture MIDI, fantastic tool, probably one of the most underrated tools that I would, you know, say Ableton has, because not a lot of people really know about it or use it. And what it is, so say I have a MIDI track with this synthesizer on it and I'm playing an idea, right? Or whatever, you get the idea. But oh no, I haven't recorded it. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna hit capture MIDI, and it's gonna give me all of that I just played. Idea is not lost, but it doesn't do that for audio, so just bear that in mind. So then next you've got your session record button, which is basically just for the session view. It allows you to kind of record your performance, but that we'll keep for another day because again, it's just a long topic. Alright, so next on the top you've got your kind of locator section. So say I set a loop, Command L, shows you it's updated that. This is where the loop starts and this is how long it is, so just bear that in mind. So if you're going to bounce out your whole song, you would select the whole song, do Command L to create a loop, do Command Shift R to go into export, And then there you go. These should line up with these, right? Because your loop should be the same render length and render start. You get it. So yeah, you've got your loop on and off here. And then moving over to the right side of the top, you've got these tools here. So this is your CPU load meter. This will basically tell you if your project is freaking out or your computer is freaking out. So next to it, you've got the MIDI map button, which allows you to say you have a certain parameter. Say I want to map this volume with my controller. Do that. You can see it's updated here. Once I turn that off, woo, I can do that. Fantastic. You can also do that with a certain key on your keyboard. Say I want to solo this specific track with the button F, then I can do that, and then every time I press F, it will solo that track. Fantastic. Alright, so the last two things here, you've got this computer MIDI keyboard. If you want to play a synthesizer that you've got, but you don't have a MIDI keyboard, you can actually just play on your keyboard by clicking this or pressing the letter M on your keyboard. And then fantastic. And lastly, you've got the draw tool, which is basically say you've got some MIDI and you click the draw tool or you press B on your keyboard, it will allow you to just draw. Or if you're automating, that's the A on your keyboard. Same thing, you can just draw your automation. Fantastic. Okay, so to finish off, I'm just going to leave you with a couple of final tips, I guess you could say. Most importantly, zoom in, right? This isn't the most obvious thing. If you've got a laptop, you could probably just use your trackpad and just zoom in as you normally would. But if you're on a mouse, it's not the most obvious thing. So to zoom in, you basically move your mouse to the top of here. You can see there's a little magnifying glass, and if I click and pull down, I can zoom in. Or say you're editing some MIDI and you want the thickness of the notes to be wider or narrower, you can do that there. You know, same. You can zoom into your bar here. It's all separate, but it's convenient to know how to do that. All right, you've also got in your preferences, that's Command, comma for most Windows on Mac. In here in the audio tab, you can select your input and output device. That would be your interface that you've got plugged in. You've also got your input and output config. So say you've got your microphone is always plugged into channel 1 on your interface. I can label that microphone. And there you go. It's labeled. You can do the same in your outputs. So yeah, you can set your buffer size. If you're recording, maybe keep it to a lower number to save yourself some of that latency. But if you're mixing, feel free to crank up the number a bit. Okay, that's basically it. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be making more content like this, as well as more production stuff that I do on my Twitch. So feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of that. Once again, thank you for watching. I've been Chris Vella, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you.